Hey there! What if I told you there's a software that'll make your 3060 perform like a 4090?
This dude's a freaking idiot. There's no way my 4090 is worse than his 3060. I never had a 4090.
Hello everybody and welcome back to my car. Yes, I'm still here. I know. Anyways, I'm gonna cut to the chase. Yes, the title and the thumbnail is clickbait. I'm sorry, I know. I shouldn't have done that, I know. But if Nvidia can get away with it, then so can I. Why can't I get away with a little bit of clickbait here and there, okay? Like, get over it. Anyways, Nvidia claims the 5070 to be as fast as the 4090, thanks to their DLSS frame generation technology. So, if Nvidia can do that, then why can't I do it for a 3060? A very, very commonly used GPU. In fact, I believe it's the #1 most used GPU on the Steam hardware survey. So, what better GPU to use, right? Now, in order to accomplish this 4090 level of performance on a 3060, we have to use this special software called Lossless Scaling. I've been using Lossless Scaling for quite a while now, and they recently released an update that has up to 20 times frame scaling. So it's pretty crazy. Now, of course, I don't really think I expect a 3060 to be able to handle 20 times frame generation. It takes processing power to actually generate the frames, so it's a little more complicated than just multiplying my frame rate by 20, but like, I think we can get pretty high up there, hopefully, maybe. Now, will it be up to 4090 levels of performance? I don't know. Maybe. But regardless, I think it's going to be interesting to see how far I can push this 3060 in terms of frame generation technology. I know the 30 series doesn't officially support frame generation, so it's definitely interesting to see a software third party support it and not Nvidia, so thank you, Nvidia. Now, obviously, there are limitations to frame generation technology. You can't just add VRAM to your GPU. It's still limited by 12 gigabytes or whatever your frame buffer is, and that's part of the reason why people are saying that the 5070 is a bit misleading, because it has half the VRAM of the 4090, which, funnily enough, the 3060 also has half the VRAM of a 4090, so interesting. But without further ado, let's see how far we can push this 3060 and see if we can actually get to perform like a 4090. Let's go. Alright, so I have launched the software, Lossless Scaling, and we are going to first off start out with the 2 times frame generation scaling. So let's see how the 3060 does with 2 times. And of course, we're going to be doing the testing on Resident Evil 4 Remake. I'm sorry. And we are playing at the 1080p prioritized graphics preset just to give a more realistic graphical preset for a 3060, just to see how it does without any frame generation. Alright, so off the bat, we're running at almost 100 FPS, like just below it. It feels pretty smooth. I know that, you know, YouTube doesn't support past 60 FPS in terms of the refresh rate, so, you know, just use your imagination. But it is a very smooth, responsive experience, and I will say frame generation usually depreciates the responsiveness or latency of the gameplay. So let's see how it does with a 2 times frame generation scaling. Alright, I'm gonna make it as obvious as possible, but we did turn it on, and the frame rate has dropped from almost 100 to like just above 60. So you can see already the 2 times generation scaling is a bit intensive on the 3060. But in terms of smoothness, I would say it's definitely an improvement. And it says it's upscaling it to, or rather interpolating it to 130-ish, 140. And I will say it does look noticeably better than it did before the frame generation. And in terms of latency, it's okay right now. I think it's a slight downgrade because obviously you're working with a baseline 60 FPS experience, but the actual perceived fluidity is quite upgraded, I would say. I think this is actually, I would play like this. I wouldn't mind playing like this with the 2 times. Is it perfect? No, but like, it's for a AAA game like this. I think that's where frame generation actually shines the most, is when you're playing these games where you don't really need, you know, the craziest reaction times. You're not playing any sort of esports, and you're just trying to enjoy the game a little smoother than it would otherwise be. And I think this is doing a very good job. I don't think the 3060 is doing a bad job at the 2 times frame generation scaling. So let's see how it does at 3 times. Okay, so we are now scaling it to 3 times frame generation, and we're running at slightly lower than before, probably about 10 FPS lower than before, mid to high 50s, maybe even low 50s here and there, but it is scaling it to roughly 160 FPS, and the actual fluidity is, again, improved. I actually do notice a perceivable difference, but again, what does also show is a reduction in actual latency. You can tell every time you scale the frame rate higher, the latency increases a little bit at a time. We're still at the stage where I think that it is a beneficial thing to do to scale it up, but it is getting noticeable, and you know, obviously that wouldn't cut it in an esports competitive experience, but in a game like this, I think we're doing just fine. And I am playing on 240 Hz monitors, so every single frame that this is upscaled to will be perceived. Now, when you interpolate frame rates, you do generally get some artifacting. If you notice around Ada, there is a little bit of a weird artifact going on there, but I think it's generally not that bad here. It's not showing up up too bad. Some people might find it distracting though, but for me, it's honestly not a big deal. I do find the experience to be generally pretty enjoyable, and it doesn't take away from the gameplay experience for me for the most part. So I'm actually surprised to see the 3060 is doing so well so far, but I think beyond here is going to start seeing diminishing returns. So I'm going to put it up to 5 times real quick and see how the 3060 does with that. Alright, so we are at 5 times frame generation, and I can already see quite a bit more artifacting compared to the 3 times. If you move it, the fence is like warpy. It's kind of weird. I don't know how to explain it. We are supposedly upscaling it to about 220, 200-ish FPS, so we should be close to reaching my monitor's max refresh rate, but unfortunately, the latency is starting to get pretty bad, as well as the artifacting. It's a bit much. I think we're at the point where I would actually not prefer to play like this, but you know, seeing the frame rate counter this high, you know, it gives me that nice boost of good chemicals in my brain. You know, I love seeing the high frame rate, so obviously it's fine, right? I'm gonna tell everybody my 3060 is like a 4090 now, because obviously the frame rate doesn't lie, okay? But in reality, at this point, it's just getting a bit too much for my liking. But, you know, just because it's a little bit bad doesn't mean there's no benefits. Obviously, it is perceivably smoother. It's just the artifacting that happens really is distracting at this point. But yeah, I think the 3060 is starting to kind of struggle to actually handle the task of rendering both the game and the frames right now, because like stuff is just looking a bit too artifacty for my liking. And also, like I said, the latency is getting quite a bit worse. It's still playable though, and I guess that's kind of the important part here, but I don't think that it is the most desirable experience, despite it being 200 plus FPS. It doesn't feel like a true 200 FPS. Let's see what 10 times scaling does for my 3060. Okay, so we are now at 10 times scaling, and I don't know if you can see it. We are so low in terms of base frame rate. We're at 28. We're below 30 right now. But hey, that other frame rate looks so much higher, so obviously it's going to be a good experience, right? Oh boy. Okay, now the artifacting I was talking about before, it is like so much worse. And also the latency is diabolical. This is terrible, but you know what? We're gonna pursue forward and see how our 3060 does. Now, yes, it is kind of smooth on some scenes, but it just gets like it falls apart very easily. Some of the characters almost look like they're like walking in stop motion or like moving in stop motion. It's quite bizarre. Yeah, the latency is getting terrible. Oh, I don't know if you can like tell when I'm moving my mouse. You can see it like it's not good. But like I said, our actual like scaled frame rate is supposed to be pretty high, so you know we're obviously about there at a 4090 by now. Not really though. It's actually quite displeasing to look at this video game right now. I don't like it. Yeah, obviously at this point you'd probably just want to turn this freaking software off, but you know, just for you guys, I want to push forward and see just how ridiculous we can get. So we're gonna go to 20 times frame generation, and you know, let's see how bad it is. All right, this is actually really bad. So our base frame rate is down to 16 right now, but we're up to 300 FPS, over 300. So you know, obviously as soon as we move this mouse, it's going to be such a smooth, fluid gaming experience, right? Oh, hold up. It's actually pretty... Oh, no, it's not. Okay, this is terrible. Oh my god, the latency. We're gaming in the future right now. I can see all the future frames. Seeing on the future. Oh, you got me. No, I didn't see that, though. This is something bizarre. This is like a dream right now. It's like, it feels like I'm in a dream, and I'm trying to run away from my pursuer. Everything is so slow and sluggish. Oh, everything is very, very quickly falling apart with this fake frame rate. As soon as I move my camera, everything just turns into like a water painting. It's something else. So yeah, obviously this is not a good idea to do if you have a 3060 or really any GPU. I don't think any GPU would be doing good with this 20 times frame generation scaling. So yeah, I'm sorry for clickbaiting you. My 3060 is obviously not as good as a 4090, but we learned a lesson here, you know. But hey, you know, we're getting such a high frame rate. You know, I have no regrets doing this. This is truly the experience that we all thrive for in gaming. This is the future of gaming, guys. Okay, get used to it. Anyways, though, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up my thoughts real quick if I have any after this, because I feel like I had a lobotomy. So in conclusion, did the 3060 reach 4090 levels of performance? Of course it didn't. Listen, frame generation is a very interesting technology, and I think if it's applied in the right areas, it's pretty good, but obviously you can't make up for raw performance numbers. And you know, I think this acts as a cautionary tale to those who genuinely believe the 5070 will be like a 4090, because it will not be. I'm sorry. I do want to emphasize that I don't think this is an exact one-to-one of what to expect from the 5070, obviously. But I do believe Nvidia's marketing tactics can be a bit misleading at times, and just just watch out, okay? It's cool, it's a cool technology, but it's not real performance. There are downsides to enabling frame generation, so keep that in mind. Anyways, thank you all for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe, probably not. Regardless, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching.